Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've always said this in Parliament since 2014, that the use of Order 51 in rushing laws through is not the best way of making laws. There are obvious reasons where we need urgent consideration of bills under Order 51, but I think what we've seen in the last 6 years, that this government has used Order 51 to rush through bills when they didn't have to, or when they don't have to. And I think this particular one, Mr. Speaker, falls into that category as well. And I'm just wondering, how many people in Fiji actually know how the laws are made. Sometimes people are confused. I mean, I meet people and they say, hey, you guys push this law, half the people don't understand this, the people who are supposed to implement that law don't understand it. It creates a lot of confusion, Mr. Speaker, and the idea of putting laws through, or draft laws through, or laws introduced in Parliament to committees is precisely to give those who might have issues with the law, those who might have suggestions. Ultimately, it's a Parliament, it's a government which has the numbers, which is going to approve or make amendments to that law based on what we hear. So the use of Order 51 to ram through these two pieces of law, Mr. Speaker, is bad, and I would urge the government to actually reconsider it. There's no harm in going back well, you wait, I'm coming to that. And I wonder, Mr. Speaker, how many parliaments are there in the world where the members of Parliament arrive on the first day of 1 week sitting and have no idea what bills are going to come? I mean, when we came here on Monday morning, we had no idea what the Attorney General was planning, what the government was planning to bring the bills. Some decency would tell them that, at least the members of Parliament are informed in the Business Committee that these are the bills that would come, Then suddenly in the middle of the day, Mr. Speaker, you get the bills under urgency, everything must be rushed, and also within an hour's debate. The government members, of course, just nod their heads and vote it through. This includes, Mr. Speaker, what I call the silent 25, the members who say nothing when government actually tramples on proper parliamentary procedures. They all keep quiet. I mean, we have a pointless 1 hour debate after all this, and the government, everyone knows, will vote it through. So that is the point. That is the point I'm making. That before that, when you have the numbers, when you know, why don't you give the opportunity to the people? Give the opportunity to the people and those who might be concerned to have their say. That's what we are asking. We're not asking for too much, Mr. Speaker. That's why it's important to put the bills through the Parliamentary Committee. I mean, last year, for example, we passed laws on the media, the professional sector, taxation, immigration, citizenship. All these laws were passed under urgency, and all understanding Order 51. And I know, I told this Parliament in the last session, a lot of people still have difficulty understanding some of those laws. The public out there has no idea what the passport law changes are, what the citizenship. People who are actually in the immigration department have no idea. They can't give proper information to people, and that is why it is important, Mr. Speaker, that we have some discussion through these committees so that people at least have an idea of what the new law is going to be. And we know that the government knows that very few, if any, of these bills require the level of urgency. They know that it is not urgent, that, you can put it into the committee, Mr. Speaker. But again, standing order is used. I mean, I know the former clerk to Parliament, Mary Chapman, in one of the seminars, Mr. Speaker, made that point very well. I mean, she said that during their time, and Honourable Speaker, you were a speaker in the previous Parliament as well, and I'm sure you can see the difference yourself in how we are actually enacting laws. And so repeated use of Order 51, in my view, Mr. Speaker, makes a mockery of how we make laws in this House. And it is important that we raise this as part of this discussion on the bill. I mean, it also shows that the government is disorganized. I mean, they don't have this idea of taking bills through a process, through the committees, have a timeline. Again, Mr. Speaker, it is really unreasonable for anyone to expect the opposition. I mean, I've had so many calls about these bills from Monday. People want to look at it. I mean, you are laughing, It's not a laughing matter. It's not a laughing matter. It's not a laughing matter, Honourable Attorney General. It's not a laughing matter. It's a very important matter. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I know what laws are. I mean, I know, Mr. Speaker, corruption, the economic cost of corruption. I wrote a paper about economic cost of corruption, about a few years back. But more important, Mr. Speaker, it's the government corruption that is costing the societies everywhere, big amount. And this is why I think it is important to have laws that all of us as legislators can actually understand and ensure that it is applied. So, it is not a laughing matter, Mr. Speaker. And people are asking, what is the government up to? I mean, here we have 2 cyclones that have just hit us. People are asking questions about, what is the government package? What is government going to do about the workers who have lost jobs and those who are suffering in Banua Levu? Here is a government bent on, rushing laws. And all this silent 25, sitting there and not saying anything. I mean, why do we want this anti-corruption division in the High Court so urgently? I mean, is the system not working? Do we have enough judges? Do we have enough people in the courtrooms, the support staff? I mean, we need to probably look at all those issues rather than assuming that, once you have a specialized court. I know we have employment court, we have family court, but the problems are still there. The delays are still there. The efficiency of the court system is still an issue. So, I mean, this is very, very important, Mr. Speaker, that we understand the importance of making the laws and how the laws are made. If you look at the notes to the bill, Mr. Speaker, it says there are 17 countries around the world which have specialized anti-corruption courts, which of course means, Mr. Speaker, that there are about 180 countries which don't have such courts. And so, are we saying that, and I know Honourable member who spoke before me actually talked about the countries and a little bit of research. So 180 countries around the world don't have a separate division, only 17. And some of these countries, I think she was naming, and she is right, countries like Philippines, countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Slovakia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kenya. These countries have specialized courts. And if you look at the corruption indices and the research that shows the economic cost of corruption in some of those countries, it's actually quite high. The incidence of corruption is very high, Mr. Speaker. And I agree with what the Honourable Koya was saying about the cost of corruption. The economic cost of corruption is huge in many of these countries. So I'm not sure whether we have reached that point where we want to identify ourselves with these countries. The other justification for the new anti-corruption division is that there are fewer judges. They'll deliver more consistent rulings. I had the Attorney General talking about consistency. I mean, there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee that you have a separate division, even if you have 2 or 3 judges. There is no guarantee that there will be consistent judgments. You know, it all depends on, I mean, my understanding of how cases are dealt with. You know, there are a lot of other factors that determine at the end of the day. So I think it's the question really is about the efficiency. I think if we are not getting the courts to deal with corruption cases, you know, expeditiously, you know, efficiently, is to do with the efficiency of our court system. I think we need to look at that more than, you know, trying to create another division. I want to quote, Mr. Speaker, the Fijivillage Society president. I mean, an individual that I have a lot of respect for, you know, in the law fraternity, Mr. Clark. And he said the following, and I quote, "The notion that only specialist judges are competent to preside over corruption cases is open to challenge. Corruption is a criminal offense. Judges, magistrates are by definition learned in the law, including criminal law. That is why they are appointed in the first place. A diverse bench offering different perspectives and viewpoints is an important strength in criminal justice. Specialization derives the bench of the diversity. Corruption is not so complex or so widespread as to justify a specialized court." That is what I was saying earlier. In their view, we cannot compare ourselves with the countries that I listed earlier. They're perhaps, you know, right in that. So I kind of endorse, Mr. Speaker, all the views expressed by Mr. Clark. You know, he's a former prosecutor, he's a practicing lawyer, and I see that the Honourable Attorney General, I had his press conference, is accusing the Law Society of siding with the opposition, or conspiring with the opposition. You know, this is the reference that Nico made, that somehow this government thinks that, you know, if I'm seen with Richard Naidu, or if I'm seen with Wiley Clark, if I'm seen with, they're all conspiring with me in the opposition, you know, or I'm seen with the Pal Al-Walia, you know, in a Gurudwara, you know, that I'm, you know, suddenly, you know, politicizing this. I mean, this is the kind of connection or conspiracy theories that they develop. You know. I mean, these guys are people with reputation in the area of law. And when they say something, Mr. Speaker, you know, as I said, Mr. Speaker, politics is not about winning all the argument. Politics is not just about, you know, putting the opposition and the government on one side and the opposition on the other side. I think we all have differences of opinion. We can disagree. But we can talk about these things. We can agree. I mean, we don't have an upper house in this parliament. We have a single chamber parliament, Mr. Speaker, and that is why when we try and ram through bills through Order 51, there is no recourse. I mean, in a parliamentary system where you have Senate, where bills can be reviewed, there is always this option of taking it to the people, and people will have a better opportunity to understand this. So when you have a single chamber parliament, it is absolutely necessary, Mr. Speaker,
Honourable Member,
for us to
just stick to what is being debated. You've already gone over time.
I'm about to finish, Mr. Speaker. That if there is a need for an anti-corruption division of the court, then we have not explained this to the people. And the only way we could have explained the need for a separate division or an anti-corruption court is for us to take this bill to the committees and let the committee come back with its report so that we can have a better debate, an informed debate, and the people have a better information about the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Leader of the National Federation. Honourable Pio Tigondondua, you have the floor.
Honourable Speaker, I'm not making an intervention on this particular bill. On the next one. My apology.
Honourable Attorney General, your right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I found it rather amusing but quite saddening. Honourable Naikula, if I could just get that off my chest, in his address on this bill, talked about how the military perhaps should remove this government. And here is this opposition